Namaste. Welcome to this yoga short for helping you to do relaxation at the end of yoga classes. As we all know, the relaxation part of the yoga class is in fact the most important bit. It's the bit when our energy comes back to center, having been scattered and moved in all different directions, comes back to center, and as a result leaves us feeling energized and renewed and revitalized rather than depleted. If we leave the yoga class before relaxation, or if we don't do an adequate relaxation, we can feel scattered and depleted after a yoga class, which is not what we want. So we want that opportunity to relax, but what happens if you're not very comfortable in relaxation and you never feel like you're able to? So sometimes the posture that we're given, Savasana, our classical relaxation posture, is just not good for some people. Partly that can be because perhaps you've got a bit of tension in your low back. If so, go back to do the tense and relax video, the one before this one, because that can help to ease that, help you find more comfort in Savasana. But sometimes this posture isn't comfortable because it doesn't suit you physically, or it feels very vulnerable or too open. So how can we adapt this posture to be better? So one of the first things that you can do is try having your hands on your abdomen instead of out to the side. And for some people that helps to settle the shoulders. It's more supportive through the elbows. And if you've got arms that do it quite naturally, you might like one hand on your chest, one hand around about your navel or just above, which can also help us to feel like we're being hugged or held or contained or protected in the front of our body. So try one of these positions of the hands and see if that works for you. For me, the hand up here doesn't work because I've got nothing to rest my elbow on. But down here it feels quite nice, and sometimes it's just nice if the hands are cold, if you're in a cold studio or a cold room where reaching out to the side would be cold for your hands, try them on your belly instead. And if it still doesn't work in Shavasana, don't worry, there's lots of alternatives. So we can try, our next posture to try is constructive rest. So that's with the feet bent in. They don't have to be super close to the buttocks, but feet bent in, knees over the feet. Again, the arms finding either that softness against the floor. This is a little bit easier on the shoulders. There's a little bit of effort goes through the body to push the shoulders down into the floor in constructive rest rather than in Shavasana. So if you struggle to release your shoulders down, this might be the good alternative for you. And of course, you can also do this with the hands on the body instead. But if you find that having your knees just straight up doesn't suit you because you feel like you're not held, it's not supportive enough, you can take your feet out to the side of your mat, excuse me, and lean your knees together. So you've got wide feet and narrow knees, and that can help to soften across the pelvis, particularly the back of the pelvis. It's really nice. And it just is more restful for the legs and the pelvis than if this, with the knees apart, doesn't feel like that. For me, I prefer the knees apart, but everybody's different. And that's the beauty of having lots of different options for relaxation. So if these don't work for you, let's try something else again. So rolling to one side, coming up into sitting, we're going to try popping the legs up on a chair. Now, legs up the wall for a full relaxation can be a little bit too much for some people, too intense, or it gets a bit uncomfortable after a while. So try with your legs up on a seat instead. Same principle. You get your bottom quite close to the seat and you pop the lower part of your legs up, and you can have your knees as far apart as your seat will allow. This works great on a low bed or a sofa as well as a dining room chair like this one. If possible, get yourself to the point where your heels are also supported. because that helps the backs of the legs and the body in general to just release down. And here again, your arms can be in whatever position suits you best. I quite like, if my legs are up, to have my arms up as well, and reaching out to the side. Just make sure if you do that, that your shoulders are really relaxed. And shoulders, elbows, backs of the hands are all in contact with the floor. And this is really a lovely posture that helps the weight of the pelvis to be slightly different into the mat. It's very nice if you suffer with that sort of pinching sensation in the low back, or if your back in general is tight, because the whole of the back is supported into the mat and the muscles can soften just that little bit better with that support. So if you like legs up the wall, but you don't want to hold it for a whole relaxation, try legs up on a chair. And of course, it's great for varicose veins and other bits and pieces as well. Just take care when you come down to bend your knees into your chest, wriggle around a little bit before you come back up into sitting. And if you like legs up the wall and you want to do the whole thing, then of course, legs up the wall is great too. Try to make sure that you're warm in any position. Sometimes Savasana and all of the lying on the back poses are better with a folded blanket underneath you, so it's just a little bit warmer and softer. But I covered that in an earlier video. So we're going to do something called flapping fish. So flapping fish pose is most often given as the alternative to do lying on your front. So to do flapping fish pose, you come down to lying on your front. Let's say we're going to work with this side of the body. It's actually my right side, but it could be your left if you're facing the camera. So I'm going to leave my left hand underneath my forehead, or I can turn my head to one side. And then I'm going to draw my right knee out to the side and my right elbow out to the side. So I'm propped up on my knee and my elbow. I can't roll and very stable. You'll notice this is a little bit like the recovery position. And it is. So as long as this is comfortable across your hips, you don't have to have your knee as high as I do. That's just because that's where it's comfortable for me. Then you can actually let your belly completely relax here. You've got a nice, soft, long breath opportunity. The front of the body is supported, so it helps to soften tension from the chest, from the abdomen, from the diaphragm. And it actually improves our breath into the back of the body, which is actually where all the little alveoli are. So it can improve your oxygen exchange if you are breathless sometimes, or struggle with asthma or something like this, or long COVID. This can be a really nice one to do. But if it feels like you couldn't hold it for a whole relaxation, you can try using a little folded blanket to give just a touch of extra support under that elbow and knee, so that it feels a little bit lifted, a little bit softer to hold. And of course, getting a blanket over you in this position might require the aid of someone else, but you might be able to just put on some extra layers and be super comfy here too. Remember, you can have a blanket underneath you. If you practice flapping fish, there will always be one side of the body that feels more comfortable to do it than the other, but try to practice evenly to both sides, not in the same relaxation necessarily, but maybe in the same day or every other time you come to yoga. Go the opposite way. So this is a great alternative. And there's another one on the front of the body as well, which is just a very standard Makarasana or crocodile pose. So for crocodile pose, you have a pillow made out of the hands, the forehead on the back of the hands, toes turned inwards and heels turned outwards. Now, if you're not very flexible in the ankles, or if you have stiff ankles, you might end up with your feet a bit like this, the ankles very lifted. And that's when you can take your folded blanket from the previous option and pop it underneath the ankles, so that the tops of the toes can reach the floor perhaps, but your ankles and low legs feel lovely and supported. And here, provided that pillow out of the hands gives you your nose enough space, so your nose is not touching the floor, that's great. But if you need to, you can also turn your head to one side. And you might feel that you can shuggle your hips from side to side. We often do this after back bending practice. And then again, with a nice soft belly and deep breath. If you feel vulnerable lying on your back, try this one. It really is a great way to feel that sense of less sense of vulnerability and more sense of being able to let go. It suits tummy sleepers as well, and it keeps the spine in its natural S-curve from cervical spine, the neck, all the way down to the base of the back, which means actually it's really very nice, particularly if you suffer from nondescript low back pain. So this is another alternative. And then finally, if relaxing on the floor just doesn't suit you, try, if you're at home, sitting on your sofa or lying in your bed, or if you would like to, you can sit in a chair. So particularly in chair yoga, we use this variation where we sit in a chair. Sorry, I'm very tall. I've made the camera space very small for this class. So just easing right back into the back of the seat. Again, you can use your blanket to cover your legs or the rest of your body. Wrap yourself up. Really let your body relax against the back of the chair. You can even set your chair up against a wall and lean your head back as well if you like. Rest your hands wherever they're comfortable and just see if that's a more comfortable position for relaxation. Lots of people are very happy in a chair. And if you don't like being on the floor, it can be a great option. Whatever you do, please do relaxation, because it's just such an important part of the yoga practice. And let me know which of these suits you best in the comments below, and like the video if you have enjoyed it. I'm sure that there are lots of other options. If you have one that we haven't covered today, just let me know. I so enjoy sharing yoga with you. Namaste.